So today I'm going to teach Unit 1. Unit 1 is called Nourishment. So today we're going to begin the class with a topic about nourishment. We're going to remember the vocabulary about food and also nutrition. That's the main topic that we have to discuss for today. So I want all the students to look into the photo that you can see here. And maybe you can tell me about your favorite food, the kind of food that you like, and why is the food important for your family and also for the community. That's what it means with nourishment. Thinking not only about the kinds of food that we like, but also with the idea about the family and the community. That is important to keep in mind. Yes, so then the students, they can have some time to think about their favorite foods, maybe from here in Thailand, or if some students, they come from nearby, like for example from China or from Japan, they can also discuss and compare maybe the food in Thailand with the food from abroad. And it's interesting to get to know this idea of nourishment or how to use the food to keep everyone together. Thinking about this idea of unity and growth. Yes. So then, after we begin with this discussion or this topic about the food and nutrition, we'll move on to the vocabulary preview. So for this vocabulary preview, we have some key words. What they have to do, the students, they have to match the key words with the meanings they can see there. So then they can have one sentence. Like for example, giving money is a popular Chinese New Year tradition. So when they see this word, like for example, when we think about the vocabulary, we have in the sentence, giving money is a popular Chinese New Year tradition. And we can think, for example, about the word tradition, and then they have to match with the meaning. That, for example, it can mean a custom. Yes, so then the students, they have to read the sentence, and you have to guess the meaning. You have to guess the meaning by yourself from the context. Thinking about this sentence from daily conversation. And then other words, like for example, that can be more challenging. Thinking about prominent. So this word, prominent, you can think about the sentence. He was a very prominent and well-respected member of the community. So prominent means someone very famous or someone who is respected. So prominent means someone very famous or respected or well respected. So for example, someone prominent can be like a scientist or even a musician or an actor. So then after the students, they complete a vocabulary preview, reading the sentence and matching the sentence with the different meanings. Then we will move on to the main reading, food has communication. Because remember that at the beginning of the class, we mentioned the idea of nourishment regarding unity and growth. But when it comes to food has communication, the students, they will go into the main reading. So then, I want the students to look at the photo. When you see the photo here at the beginning of the reading, they have to think, what are these people doing? Why are they eating together? So normally with food has communication. We have this idea that we eat together with our friends or with our family, and how the food is a way to communicate, to say what happens every day. For example, after school, you go back home or you meet your friends or for lunch, and how food can be key to unify people. Then after this, after we discuss the topic of food has communication, then we move on to the main reading. So in the first part of the reading, they have a table that they have to do in their notebook or in their worksheet, and they have to do this table where they have 7 kinds of food from abroad. 7 foods from abroad. Yes, so then they have 7 kinds of foods from abroad, and they have to tell me the culture or country where they come from, and then the significance or meaning. So I mentioned at the beginning of the class, when we think about food from Japan or from the US, but what does it mean for the Americans or the Japanese? Is it similar or different? So, for example, we can think about bread. How bread is important worldwide, as one of the most basic foods for everyone. But then other kinds of food, like for example, when we think about corn is from the US. So, for example, when we think about corn, it's the most typical food in the United States. And it means this idea of prosperity. Prosperity or to bring wealth or to be wealthy. Yes, and then we can compare the foods from many different kinds of countries, from 7 countries, and what do they mean when it comes to culture, nourishment, and also for communication. So then the students, they have to work together in pairs or in small groups to analyze the reading activity. And then once they identify the 7 foods and the country and the culture, then we move on to the next part of the reading activity. So for this, they have to read the global reading. The global reading, they will have to read the story one more time, and then they have to summarize each one of the paragraphs. So remember that I showed you before the reading activity. We can see here that they have 5 paragraphs in this reading. So for the global reading that we can see here, yes, for the global reading, where we have the 5 paragraphs, they have to tell me the main idea in each one of the paragraphs. So then they have to read each part. The good thing is that in the activity, they already have the main idea written down for them. So then they have to think. For example, food can bring people together. Where does it say this in the text? In what paragraph does it mention the idea that food can bring people together? So then the students, they can work together in small groups to try to identify the main idea in each one of the 5 paragraphs. Then, after this, we will move on to the next part of the class, when they can do a close reading. So, for the close reading, they can continue from the main idea, and then they can do like a mind map. A mind map, thinking about the details of each kind of food. So, for the close reading, yes, they can try to do like a mind map. And in the mind map, they have to develop the main idea but with the details. The details about each kind of the 7 foods that we discussed before. So we have to think about the details. The details of each kind of food. For example, one of the foods that I mentioned is about the red eggs. Recently, we had the Chinese New Year, and they use the red eggs to bring luck or prosperity for the new year, to be lucky. Like I mentioned before, for corn in the US, the same, similar to the red eggs in China, brings prosperity and wealth. So then, after this, we can move on to the discussion. The discussion, they will have to do it in small groups as well, and they will have to present their favorite dish. It can be a dish from here in Thailand, their favorite food in Thailand, or from abroad. For this discussion, they have to prepare. They can do like a draft, thinking about the beginning, what kind of food they like. Then in the middle, they can tell me why do they like it and with whom they eat it with. Remember the importance of family and community that we mentioned. Then in the conclusion, they can say why this food is popular. Maybe the day of tomorrow will continue to be popular or maybe not. Something like this that we can try to brainstorm. Yes, so that's the main project that they will have to prepare after they finish analyzing everything. So then the project is to present their favorite food. They have to focus in the main things that I mentioned at the beginning. So to present their favorite food, they can say, they can describe the food. For example, they can mention the main ingredients, the way it looks like. If it's sweet food or salty, they can think about the flavor of the food. Then they can tell me a little bit about the country of origin of the food. So, for example, if you choose food from Japan, what do you like from this country, from Japan? If you choose from the US, where do people, the Americans, eat this kind of food? Maybe they can eat it during Christmas time or for New Year, something like this. And then when it comes to them, they have to tell me an experience. Yes, so then they can tell me a time in which they ate this kind of food together with their family or their friends. Like for example, like a memory that was important for them. And then they have, after they finish writing a draft of the presentation, then they have to come out. I will make each group of 4 or 5 students to come out, and then one speaker will speak for the group, describing the food that they like. One of the important things is that they have to put into practice the vocabulary that we saw at the beginning of the unit. When we think at the beginning of the unit, we have to see the key words in the story and how to match them with the definitions. Then they can use this vocabulary for their presentation. So I get to know that they have understood the meaning of the different words and how they can put it into practice. Yes, so the idea with this topic or this unit 1 is not only to emphasize the use of food as communication, but also to make it like an intercultural exchange for the students. So they can become aware of different kinds of culture from many countries, and also to emphasize the idea of unity and growth. Yes, so basically this will be my unit that I want to present for today. I'm not sure if any student has questions about this unit. No? And then for this presentation, it will be part of their homework. So then the students, they have to have their presentation or their draft in their notebook or in the worksheet. So I know that all the students are participating in the class. Yes. Yes, so we finished for today, and I hope you enjoy the demonstration.